Welcome back to another episode of Exile's podcast. I'm Brooks and this is Cory, the Raley brothers.
Today we're going to have Dustin Garcia on here. He's a good friend of ours and longtime ambassador. He's going to be talking cartridges that he shoots, animals that they hunt, and just all-around guide expertise.
I'm excited about today's new addition, for lack of better terms, but I'll let Cory give you the intro.
Yeah, no, this is Dustin Garcia. He's a good buddy of mine, known each other for a long time. Real early on in Exile, just building rifles and getting all your feedback from all the clients that you kind of do all that. And why don't you just go ahead and give an intro of kind of what you do, where you work, all those types of things.
Yeah, so I'm a full-time hunting guide for Ox Ranch. I've been with them for, I think, going on 6 years now, which is basically right around the same time we met. I think me and some of the guys were eating lunch in Uvalde, and we went into the shop one day and checked it all out. You kind of gave us the rundown, and I was like, I don't know about all this, it's kind of not for me.
Yeah, because that was back whenever, you remind me, but you hadn't had a custom rifle before that, right?
No, not even close.
You were shopping a little bit, trying to, dip your feet into it, really kind of just dived into the guiding deal, right? As like a full-time career path and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I had a bunch of rifles, a ridiculous amount of rifles. Nothing super high quality, more like just your average everyday guy, Mm-hmm. I think that's what kind of led me to circling back with you guys, was day in, day out, found myself handing a client a rifle that maybe wasn't the most accurate or wasn't the right fit for that particular species or just whatever the case may be, and kind of got with you and you were like, well, why don't we just build one? And anyways, took me some getting used to, getting I
think, especially at the Ox, one of y'all's main deals is an abundance of exotics and all different, weights of animals, and for all that type of stuff, there's better fits for certain animals, and I think kind of talk about some of that, maybe previous rifles that you had, like you said, were maybe not a perfect fit, and putting a guy on something and man, hope for the best here.
Yeah, well, I think the rifle that I used the most before I built a rifle with you guys was a 708, which is really great for a lot of your deer size game, sheep and goats, aoudad, stuff like that. But when you start getting into those bigger animals nilgai, eland, even buffalo, the goal with any of those cartridges is to make the most effective shot on the animal.
And first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
First time, trying to do as much damage as possible.
Because you want the most ethical shot. So that was my thing, is 708, was great for most scenarios, but not every scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, I think the first rifle that we built, which is so funny because everybody bashed the 6.5 Creedmoor, and then you were like, let's build a 6.5 PRC, and I was like, it's a 6.5 Creedmoor, I don't want that. I was kind of in that same boat of bashing it, but little did I know that was going to be my favorite cartridge, and I use one every single day. That's my go-to. So built that 6.5 PRC, I think was the first one, and then we did some stuff with a 22 Creed early on.
Yeah. Shooting all down with 22 Creedmoors. Yeah.
Which it did great, but you have no room for error. You have to make an excellent shot, and just reality sets in, and that's just not going to happen every time. Scenarios are different.
I feel like in the last 6 years, right, y'all have had a very elaborate conversations. You've been part of our R&D of this whole company.
Couple hundred.
Yeah, a couple hundred, yeah. Sometimes I'm trying to take Cory off the phone. I'm like, hey, get back to work.
Yeah.
But but the R&D side is so important, right?
Yeah.
And your feedback, other ambassadors' feedback is so important too. How do we fine-tune this?
Yeah.
What can we improve here? And I would say that right out of the gate, Cory probably had to change your mind over time on what you thought was important, from muzzle velocity, barrel length, weight, suppressed. No, I like muzzle brakes.
Dude, I didn't even have a suppressor when we first started. Now I got over 20 of them. I didn't even have one. Never was really a goal to shoot suppressed. So that's a huge factor in building a custom rifle. Is what is your goal? Well, we slowly got there. We like to say I was a part of the evolution of Exile. From the Ranch King with the steel barrel, which we thought was going to be awesome. It's more of a price point type deal. And then we got there, and it's just not what the people wanted, man.
Yeah.
Like that's not. I didn't want it. You know, I used it for 2 or 3 times. You know, and I was like, man, it's accurate.
Yeah.
Like, then that's what we're going for. But it's heavy. You know, it's just not really aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I got all this color cool guns in my safe.
Yeah.
Why would I shoot that one?
Yeah.
Kind of deal. Yeah. No doubt.
But a real cool part, like, yes, you know, I helped you learn stuff along the way about rifle, you know, cartridges and all the efficiencies that come with them. But, you know, you taught me a lot about like customers. You know, I think the most important part of custom rifles is like the customer success, right? And getting people that maybe don't have as much experience and like getting honest feedback of like what works, what doesn't, all those types of things. And like you hunt pretty much year round, you know, doing upwards of, I don't know, hundreds of hunts a year kind of deal with clients of all walks of life, like super experienced guys shooting big animals, kids for the first time. Like you have helped, you know, create a lot of our models with all the feedback that you've given us of like really finding these niches and, you know, capitalizing on, wow, this is for this type of customer. I think that, you know, we mutually, you know, I benefited greatly from a lot of the stuff that you shared with me on feedback.
And like, I mean, you just start to find that like it's you know, it's not about what cartridge all the time. It's not about it's more whenever a client, you put that rifle in their hand and they see instantly that you have, you know, confidence in that tool. Well, now they have twice as much confidence in making that shot. So that's super important to me because, you know, I'm a guide, so it's not just a guide for you know, finding the highest quality animal. Like it's guiding you into the best shot scenario. You know, whether that be a 100-yard shot or a 300-yard shot, and getting you there as accurate as possible. And you know, Exile rifles, just that's what gets us there.
Yeah.
So let's dive in more into your expertise and your experience. I don't think everybody knows about what all the animals you hunt. The safari style, which I think is really cool, in the way you hunt. I mean, you don't always shoot from a prone position or the best rest. Animals are moving around. I mean, so you have different, like we've already talked about some of the different rifles that needed for velocity and cartridges or expansion, bullet sizes, etc. But give us a couple stories just that you've like have stuck out to you, your experience of like, all right, there's an older gentleman or a young kid or whatever, something that kind of opened your eyes, like, man, this is kind of something we need.
Yeah, man, like, you know, your classic safari style hunts, like just the old school way of doing it is like you just have shooting sticks. That's it. Like you have a typical rest, but now like with these new stocks and stuff that we've are in the industry, we're using tripods, and so like, I mean, I specifically audad with a variety of people, like you know, getting them into a shot distance of 300 yards it's 300 yards doesn't sound like much to, you know, a guy that does it every day, but for someone that is not used to sitting on your butt in rocky conditions, shooting uphill, downhill, whatever it is, and shooting at an animal, 300 yards is a poke, and then put a tripod in the mix, and it's a whole new learning curve for somebody.
Or get stable and all.
So like, you know, being able to throw that gun on a tripod, that has been a learning curve for me for sure. Learning to shoot off of that efficiently, but then, you know, giving somebody, you know, because if I just gave somebody that old 708 that I used to shoot and put it on a tripod with, you know, minimal accuracy, they would not be able to do that. But, you know, when you have a super, super accurate rifle, you know, you're able to bring that all together.
Yeah, and you're kind of a gear guy for sure, right? You got a tool for literally
100%. And I used to not be that way. I mean, I guess I've always been that way, but in the sense of, you know, I didn't always have the highest quality optics. I didn't always, like, I started with, you know, just your entry level stuff. But what I found out was like, I mean, if you want to be the best, you got to have the best, and that's just the reality of it. And that's where I wanted to be. So, you know, now I have, you know, the Swaro, which I think is for real. I think the ELs are like the best bino that you can buy for, you know, range finding bino. And so I have the EL ranges. You know, that's just kind of what I've, you know, gone to. Spotting scopes, tripods. I mean, bipods, everything. Yeah. Like I love to test all that stuff out. I love to be able to know with confidence, no matter what piece of equipment I have on me at that time, it it's meant for a specific job, and it does it extremely well.
Yeah.
And that's just
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest too. Like guiding can be very difficult.
100%.
Success rate is extremely important.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah.
Right, to your livelihood. If you don't have success out here, I don't have the equipment in my hands to put you in a position. I don't find the animal we're looking for. All are negatives towards you.
100%.
Some of it's you're in control, some of it's not.
Yeah.
Right. We've been on enough hunts now to know like guiding's tough.
Yeah.
It's no perfect formula.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I hear people say all the time, like, man, I'm just glad to be out here. If we don't go home with anything, like if I don't get an animal, it's all good. And like, you know, they might mean that to an extent, but deep down, who wants to pay to go on a hunt that they don't get to go home with their animals? Yeah. So you're 100% right. Like that's what you want.
Right. And so Cory and I have learned, like you go and put yourself in these different situations, guided hunts, hunting remote areas, climbing mountains, you know, stalking, spot and stalk. I mean, we've done it all off rocks and, you know, find an animal at 1,200 yards and kind of walk them in. You need radios. You need, you know, BDXs, get a good look at it so you don't spend half your day chasing an animal you didn't actually were pursuing, you know, and the equipment matters. But we've always kind of said, what does your guide have? Yeah. You should probably have what your guide has.
Definitely when you're going on these hunts, you know, and not everybody's like this, man. Some guys are just okay with having, you know, that entry level equipment, and there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're effective at your job, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But, you know, definitely look at what the guides are using, and if you're going, you know, on that once in a lifetime mule deer hunt, and your guide is using very, you know, 12x42s or 12x50s or, you know, whatever it is, binos, well, that's probably a key sign, like, hey, we're going to be in these a while, right, you know, exactly. and you know, great glass matters, just everything matters, you know, even down to, like we were talking about, the specific bullet that you're shooting. Like, not every bullet is, you know, everybody likes to say there's, you know, a do-all. Well, there's not really a do-all. There's one that's kind of good for most, but it's not really a do-all.
Yeah, they're good in like these ranges, right? Like, but not one does everything from like South Texas whitetail hunting in a box blind versus like a long range, you know, pronghorn hunt. Like those are different.
100%. You know, I don't want to take my 300 PRC that I typically hunt like Nilgai and eland and maybe even elk to go shoot a South Texas whitetail. You know, and some people might because they don't want to track it, but you know, like,
but it doesn't always work
matter.
Like that, right?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we've seen that too.
Yeah, like 215 grain bullet on a black buck on a body that's, you know, 12 inches wide, you know, in the biggest part, like that a lot has to happen in a small amount of time of this bullet to work. So you know, everybody thinks like, oh, I'm gonna shoot this big old bullet and I'm just gonna roll him over, and then, like, they're surprised whenever those things don't actually happen. But like, I don't think anyone can speak to that better than you with like the cool thing is like the range of animals that you get to hunt. And like, I don't know, I feel like you've became somewhat of like a gear guy because of like everything you're responsible for going and chasing.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, from like muntjac, which way, you know, I don't know, 30 pounds at the most, you know, all the way up to Cape Buffalo. Like that's what we have to hunt at the Ox. So it's super cool. Of course, we're not hunting that stuff every day, you know. We specifically like axis deer, like those deer in particular, man, there's nothing more fun to hunt, but they can be so tough. I mean, they can soak up a bullet like no other, you know. And so my thing has always been going back, like, what rifle can I hand my clients that's maybe not like, I don't know, not gonna they can shoot the most efficient with recoil, but still gonna get the job done, you know. And I think, like, going back to 6.5 PRC, like, that's just my go-to, you know, like that's what I found that works. And same with the binos, same with, you know, spotting scopes, tripods, all that stuff, like that stuff just works. And so why change it, you know? So.
And what's even cooler about what you do, and this is, you know, majority of our clientele in general, it's like when you start to pay to hunt and you know, you're talking about harvesting animals, success rates, etc. But you also you cut hair, you find blood, 100%. You're paying for that.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I mean, if we get into a scenario where we shoot at an animal, I mean, sometimes we don't find blood. Sometimes, you know, you see 6 axes together, one reacts out of the 6. But you know that buck's hit. I mean, they don't just react for no reason. We don't have to find blood. So it is very important to make sure you have the right equipment for the job before you squeeze that trigger. You know, because like that's yours. You bought that, and so that's where I feel like it's kind of my job to, if a guy shows up and doesn't have a rifle, well, I'm handing you the best of the best, in my opinion. You know, because
that's almost like, I go back to stories where you told, like, you take a guy out to the range and he may bring his gun, and not to bash the guys that are bringing some old stuff, but it's like, you know, they'll get on it and they're shooting, you know, pie plate groups at 100. Yeah. They're like, man, that's pretty good. Yeah. You're like, wait a minute, hold on.
And I'm like, I don't think you realize that, like, a pie plate group at 100 is fine, but like, I can't guarantee you that Axis is going to stand there at 100, and I can almost guarantee you that he's not. Yeah. You know? 99% of the time. So it's like, you know, if you're just a deer blind hunter that's hunting at a feeder,
absolutely,
you know, they're all good. Pick a cartridge. You know, we'll get you set up with a rifle. They're all good. But when you want to, you know, expand your distance and your skill set, like, pie plate at 100 ain't gonna cut it.
No doubt. You know? No doubt.
Yeah. A minute of pie plate isn't what we're after.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also another thing, just with your expertise. Like, give us a story of somebody that, like, brought an older gun or heirloom of theirs, like, this is my grandfather's gun or whatever, and they're proud of it, and that's great.
Yeah.
But then they get out there, they don't have confidence beyond 300 yards, and they're like, hey, this is the only shot you're going to get today. It's 400 plus. Run us through something like that.
Absolutely. So actually, not too long ago, had a guy out. Man, he had a I don't know, it was either a BAR or one of the old semi-auto Remingtons in a 270. And
you got all kinds.
You know, wife bought him the gun and wants to hunt with it, and more power to him. Like, I respect that. But we get out to the range, and it's not super accurate from the get-go. But whatever, we'll go. We get in the pasture, man, and I think we were after whitetail, if I remember right, and find this buck and shoot at it, and nothing. Like, deer doesn't react, nothing. I'm like, well, he's still standing there. Let's shoot at him again. So shoot him again, nothing. And we cannot figure out what's going on with this rifle. So finally, the buck kind of slips away. And this is at a time of the year where we've shot a lot of whitetail. So and you know, this guy has this particular deer in his mind already, and we're shooting at that deer, and we can't afford to let this deer get away because we might not find another buck. You know, they're broken up, whatever. And so, anyways, I hand him another rifle and say, here, let's just shoot it with this rifle. Get up there, get back on the deer, boom, shoot it, kill it, whatever. It's great. Go to the range, and this rifle has literally basically started to come apart. Like, and so I get it all figured out and get it put back together, and still cannot find accuracy. Can't hit paper. It's just not there. And so, but, you know, going back to it, like, had I not had a rifle for him to shoot right then and there, like, this is a deer of a lifetime for this guy. It would have got away, and that would have been that. And, you know, look, there's no guarantee that we would have found a deer that this guy would have ever even wanted to shoot. So it's like, you know, you can't afford to let those things happen. You're here. Like, we got to make it happen.
And just how many of your clients have become our clients, right? Like, that's what's been super cool. Is like, you have the right equipment. People lean into you when it's like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't have a rifle that can do that.
Yeah.
I do. There's confidence in that. And then it becomes a phone call and a connection. And, you know, it's kind of like, how do we continue and improve this process? How do we get the right materials in the right people's hands, right? Because we are about the consumer. Right? We've discussed that previously, but, like, our whole goal is to make sure you have success.
Absolutely.
That's a big part of what you do. You want them to have success too.
Absolutely. Well, like John in Florida, that guy came out. We met, and he shot a bunch of animals with my rifle. Finally decided to build one. And just, I mean, he's in love with it, and now he got us another build, just because he's like, it works. Why change it? You know, why?
It's cool whenever those guys, like, go out of their way to vouch for you. You know,
100%.
And they're just like, man, you have to go do this. Like, nothing has changed my hunting experience and my success, except for, like, this type of stuff. So,
no, 100%.
So we touched on gear. Touched on paying attention to what you guys are carrying, right? I got a special spot for guides. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough job. But let's get into, if we're going to just drop some information on people, what calibers, you know, like you said, you have 30-pound animals all the way up to Cape Buffalo. What are your kind of go-to top three?
Man, you know, 6.5 PRC, kind of already touched on that quite a bit. Like, I like to call that the Lord's caliber. I just think it's you know, it's the greatest. it does the job extremely well. Mitigates recoil extremely well when you put a suppressor on it. Which, I don't hunt without one now. There's so many benefits that if there is a con, okay, whatever. So 6.5 PRC is probably my go-to every day. And then you know, of course, if we're needing to shoot something a little bit bigger, it kind of was the 7 PRC, but now we finally I finally got into a 27 Tombstone that I with Cory we kind of designed that like fits right in, and so haven't got too much time behind it. I mean, in the past I've shot it a bunch, but
that
like
test rifle we built a while back.
Yeah, but like in recent times, like I haven't really shot it, so I'm really intrigued on what that's going to be like. Is that going to be one of those cartridges that 80% or 90% of my clients can shoot pretty efficiently?
I think like just to go back, but it's like directly in the middle of a 6.5 PRC and a 7, right?
Yes.
Like the 7 shooting the 175 grain bullet or 175 in a long action. So you got a little bit more built-in recoil with that, a little more weight, things like that. And then 6.5 PRC that are great in short actions and shooting like 130 to 140 grain bullets in that area.
And like I'm a
super short barrels too.
I'm a huge burger guy. Like shooting that 170 EOL is just that's going to be
something you get fired up about.
Oh yeah.
But elaborate more. 6.5 PRC. Not to interrupt, I want you to give me the 3 calibers, but barrel length.
So we've tested everything from 16 inch 708, 16 inch PRC. I mean, we've literally tested. I've done all of it, and kind of where I found myself going back to was a 21 inch proof barrel, and while we get to 21 is like I like to short shank those. Cory, we call it short shanking, where you take the chamber where the chamber is that shank and cut it down an inch, and it saves you. It saves you quite a bit of weight. Like you wouldn't,
like 4 to 6 ounces.
Yeah, you wouldn't really think that it would, but it really does. So take a 22 inch barrel and get to that 21, and that's just kind of where I found myself. You could go 20, you could go 22, whatever, but 21 just fits for me. That's
I think that's a unique choice. Like you said, you work through all those shorter barrels and things like that, but you're in the unique scenario to where you have clients of all different sizes, all different capabilities.
Absolutely.
And sometimes a little bit more velocity and a little bit longer rifle than some of the 18s, 17s that we'd build for a lot of guys that shoot them personally. I think you're unique in that you have to fit a lot more people, but still found a balance there to where like you personally, like I think some of your personal guns are even 21s. You've just kind of fell in love with that overall.
I just have,
Yeah, it's a good go ahead.
No, sorry. Like I think if I was shooting 300 to 500, never really ever thinking about taking a shot over that, and hunting a lot out of blinds, I would 100% go shorter. Like, there's no reason to have longer. You can get by with that just fine. It does the job, but I don't know what a guy's skill set is until I meet them. And I like certain clients, man. Like I've had new clients that have never touched a rifle before and shoot over 400 yards, and I've had guys they hunt for a living basically, and I wouldn't let them shoot over 400 yards. So. There's all these different walks of people, and you got to kind of be prepared if that Audad ram or that Axis buck or whatever it is gives you that shot, and it is a deer of a lifetime. At 600, I want to tell you like, hey man, this gun is capable of it. Yeah. All you have to do, put the crosshairs where I tell you, and squeeze that trigger. Right. And so that's super important to me. So
100%. 6.5 PRC, you got a Tombstone, you're gonna love that bullet. Is that a 21 also, the barrel?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're over 2,800 or so on that one.
We're like 2,750. Yeah, with those.
Right there.
So you're terminal out to like 900 or so.
Yeah.
That'll be a rifle. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great, especially kind of being that more like we were saying, do all. Like it might not do all, but it's going to do maybe most. Yeah. Where you don't have to constantly go back to the house and grab a different rifle. And keep multiple rifles in the Jeep, where now you got to keep up with all this other stuff, ammo. So I think it's going to really fit right in.
And how many like wives or women or kids or older people that do you have a third rifle for a less recoil, less that kind of stuff?
So we did a 6.5 Creedmoor. We've done 6 Creeds, but recently we've kind of done a Ranch King. I guess it's a Desperado with an adjustable for kids.
Oh, yeah.
So we're doing that just to be able to be very versatile for every person. You know, that's why I go back to the 6.5 PRC is because women tend to shoot it really well. You know, because it doesn't have a lot of recoil, super accurate. But you know, for kids, the problem that you run into is more the length of pull. So that's where the Ranch King just really fits in especially in my line of work, because you can really customize that to a kid, and get them as comfortable as possible.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like you get the notion of you know, guys got that sour taste in their mouth on 6.5 Creedmoors.
100%.
You know, you'll hear the guys with like the tracking dogs. You know?
I still like all those memes online though. Like,
those are hilarious.
Those are funny.
Yeah. What's funny is like a lot of those guys, like when you start putting numbers on paper, like 308, 708, 6.5 Creedmoor.
You're like, wait a minute.
They're literally,
these aren't that different.
Yeah, they're not different. Yeah. But it got so popular so fast, and people just jumped onto it, and you know, probably weren't shooting the right bullets, whatever it was, and it just got a bad rap. But it's a great cartridge. I mean, I shoot one pretty often. I like it. So
yeah, and just the ammo availability in general. Like I think like that's a lot of the decisions that we make on cartridges and things like that is like what factory ammo is available, how often can we get it, does it ever go out of stock? You know, those are like those. You know, maybe not the most determining factor of a cartridge, but it's right there with them.
Dude, going back to the evolution, like we did that 240 Weatherby mag, you know, and like that cartridge performed great. Yeah. It did, but inefficient, like long action, high recoiling. Ammo is hard to find. So it's like didn't
probably
really make
not the best option.
Sense,
you got to search for rainbows to try and find the 240.
Yeah, for a guy that's shooting, you know, as much as we do out there, beside, you know, not just on animals, but you know, you got to figure every client that comes through that's shooting, we're shooting at least 2 to 3 shots, maybe 3 to 5 shots at the range. So going through that much ammo on something that's hard to find is not an option.
No doubt. That's what we kind of figured out too, is like a lot of cartridges should lean heavily into, and I think that's why Hornady has been a huge success, is ammo readily available.
Yeah.
Right, obviously we have the internet that's improved a ton on availability and access and sourcing it. But originally, like you go to the local gun store,
and
you were at their mercy.
What do you got? You know, cord locks. I mean,
and you hear that all the time. Like, I don't want to build a 7 PRC because if I ever go on a hunt in Alaska, it's like they're probably not going to have 300 Win Mag either. But
I don't know what shop you're planning on walking into.
No, I love that one. Whenever a guy's like, well, I want to go into any hunting store, right? And I want to find my ammo. And it's like, you really built a custom rifle to go into any store and just shoot whatever ammo they got. It's like, it's so far beyond that now. Like if you're making those kinds of investment into that stuff, it's like, we have a specific bullet. We got custom turrets. We got data charts. We got all these things. It's like, I can't, yes, technically I can throw something in there and, you know, hope it works. But
it's like not a lot of people are shooting 30-06 anymore, so that's argument's kind of irrelevant. Like this is the hottest thing on the market, so you're probably going to be able to find ammo for a 7 PRC, you know, whatever it is.
No doubt. We've come a long ways in that one.
Yeah.
Well, let's just talk about you in general as a hunter.
Yeah.
Right. Like, do you want to pursue? You know, I'm obsessed with like the Super 10.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. Trying to get all those hunts lined up. But what about you personally? Like, you got all the rifles, you got all the gear, you hunt a lot.
Yeah.
What animals in North America intrigue you?
Man, you know, top 3 for sure: mountain lion, mule deer, and mountain goat. But the tough part is being a guide. Like my busy season is prime time for pretty much those 3 species. So working towards that. But those are my top 3, and I kind of always tend to build a lot of the rifles that I do with Cory. And you guys, kind of with all that stuff in mind, you know, like 7 PRC was fresh on the market, and like 2 months later, I was going to Africa, and so, you know, I was kind of against the 7 PRC in the beginning because it's new cartridge, not a lot of time behind it, nobody knows much about it, but built it and took it and don't regret it at all, you know.
And what'd you kill out there? You shot like sable?
Didn't know kudu. Karina killed a kudu, heart of beast, zebra. We killed mountain reed buck, bush buck.
It's a lot of taxidermy there.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Blue,
sign this guy up.
I know, man.
Guide it yourself. Is this a self-guided trick?
I got a huge problem when it comes to anything hunting.
I love it.
Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
You're in it for life, though. It's cool.
100%.
So the Africa experience, obviously, tough season mule deer wise. What about sheep? Where are you at on sheep?
Man, the problem it's just expensive. Yeah. That's it. I want to go just like the next guy. Like I would love to. I would go shoot. I mean, I shoot just about anything. Honestly, there's nothing I wouldn't go hunt. But the experience side of things, like I really, really, really want to experience Alaska, just because those backpack hunts, those like DIY type stuff. Like I want to experience that. I want to go struggle, man. I want to know what it feels like.
Sleep on the side of a mountain while it's raining and your tent's about to blow
up.
I have an obsession with that. Right? I've got a taste of it in West Texas, and I'm like, I want all of that. And I'm probably about 4 days in. I'm like, I don't want this anymore. But I feel like
I'm here.
I'm here for it. And I feel like that's when it becomes way beyond like trophy hunting, but it's about mature animals.
Yeah,
it's about being out there in the environment and honestly, kind of getting in spaces people haven't been.
Yeah. That's the thing that I like is like, we have a bunch of like arrowhead mounds and stuff on the ranch, and just picking up that arrowhead when you find one is like, man, this guy tried to hunt this animal here, or whatever, but he was using this rock to survive. But like touching those places that maybe nobody's ever been to, or if they have, it's been well over 100 years. Like that's the experiences that I want to be a part of. So like that mule deer hunt that y'all just did, like I wanted to be a part of that so bad, but just time of year, man, you gotta work. So.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, how many times I've been skunked out there is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I hunted this deer all year long, multiple trips out there. Just gave us the slip.
Yeah.
Every time. I feel like we drove into the county. He was like, "See you guys later."
I'm gonna go ahead and check out. I'll head to Mexico.
We were up on mountains all day long, glassing. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, 100%.
You got to be willing to get skunked.
Yeah.
You're a paid hunter. It's tough sometimes.
It goes back to the saying, like that's why they call it hunting, not killing.
100%. 100%. And there's something wild about that.
Yeah.
And every day you drive out there, you don't know what you're gonna see. Like essentially the deer Cory killed.
No, that deer was sick.
Yeah.
Super cool deer, but man, we were glassing. And what we loved about there is like you have the mountains, you can get up there and kind of push them up on canyons if they hear the truck running. But mule deer are so different than whitetail.
Yeah.
A mature buck, lay his head on the ground.
Yeah.
He's gonna lay down all day long.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And get up and turn around one time because he doesn't like the sun in his face anymore.
Yeah.
Or I don't like this wind. And he's gonna climb over the ridge and be on this backside. So Cory and I over the years have learned they're only going to be on this side of the ridge.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're staring straight in the wind every time on top of these mountains.
Get blasted by the sun all day.
And
the thing is you're sitting there doing this all day long, right? You're glassing and you're looking at those deer all day, 100%. And you have no idea you're doing it, right?
100%.
Like
but the biggest deer we've hunted and harvested, out there are the two of them are Cory's.
Not bad.
Yeah, Cory's that good of hunting.
Sorry, not sorry.
but the last one I found a group of 3 bucks. And we had the same the guides had, right? BDX, EL ranges, you name it, we got it, right?
Yeah,
we're all up there.
We're geared up.
And I'm like, Cory, there's 3 bucks over here. I don't know what they are or whatever. We get them BDX. And this buck did not move his head for what?
I don't know.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
So Cory's not in the truck. I got my walkie-talkie. I'm like, hey, I think y'all should come over here. I don't know if it's a managed buck. I don't know what it is. But I had my target buck in mind of like, I'm looking for this.
You knew it wasn't him? So.
I knew it wasn't him. So Cory, you're up.
Yeah.
And end up, EL ranges, you're like, 1,200 yards. Okay. I mean, we're on a pretty steep rock. Mm-hmm. And we come barreling off there with the guide, get down, and we kind of walk this ravine. We get 300 yards back. I hit the guys on top of the rock, that are kind of walking us in, and like get another 300 yards. Like we're at 600. I'm like, all right, we're halfway. Mm-hmm. Then we get to like 900 yards.
Yeah.
And I invited myself on this trip. I don't think I needed to be there. but I included
myself. Take a couple extra rocks along the way.
I think I was the quietest fucker in that group, to be honest with you. But, holding the shooting sticks or whatever, just kind of like, taking it all in. But you hit the rock at 950, you're like, man, we're inside 300 yards.
Yeah.
We need to top out. And so we go scaling up this deal, and I'm third in line. But there's this huge dagger. And the guy kind of wiggles up there.
Like, stay behind the dagger.
Behind the liner.
So we're like single file line, walking up to this dagger.
Yeah. So we get the binos up, and we're all like kind of leading out.
We're like tree branches, like all of us are.
The wind's blowing, we're trying to find him. And he's like, I see him right there. And and they're like, hey, you got to stay here. I was like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll stay right here. But just to watch 2 grown men, right? Like, we can't shoot over here. Corey's like, there's a ton of ocotillo and all kinds of stuff between me and there. We got to climb up to this dagger up here. I mean, I try to take good pictures of it, but it really doesn't do it justice. But to see 2 grown men, hands and knees,
duck walking,
ducking, crawling, kicking rocks, shuffling around. I'm like, this is how hard it is to hunt out here.
Yeah. And the gude's like, crawled, and he's like, stop, he's looking. And you're like,
yeah, 100%. Like
red light, green light kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, Cory peeking out behind this dagger, 270 yards, killing this deer, ended up being the best deer we killed on the whole ranch. And it was a complete kind of
just
let's find out. Let's get out here,
see what happens.
And he was just about to get up, but I mean, he was not going to blow out of there.
Yeah.
And that's what's so intriguing about mule deer for me.
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, we're 18,000 acres. Obviously we're high fenced. But man, you go out there on a day-to-day basis. I hunt a lot out there. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many days a year I hunt. Mm-hmm. Whether it's with clients or just, have a couple of days off and just doesn't make sense to go home. So I stay out there and scout, whatever you call it. But to just be out there and get into a spot where you're glassing and find an all-dad rim or an axis buck that you've never seen before. And you got 9 full-time guides that are there on a daily basis. And you're like, where did he come from?
Yeah.
It's exactly. Like, you wouldn't think that that's a possibility. Everybody thinks high fence, it is what it is, but it's the reality of it. It's still wild, man. Yeah. You're still in 7,000 acres and stuff can still pop up out of nowhere. And like, it's crazy. Like our aoudad, they come and go. We talk about it all the time, but like I've glassed up a herd of our aoudad on the neighbor's ranch and you're just like, man, I wish they'd come back. Like, that's a big ram in there, and then 2 weeks later you kill that ram back in your side and it's like, yes, got him, but it's just crazy. Like
they move, they're wild. 100%. I mean, our dad handles like a couple of different ranches, but one of them's high fence, 800 acres, kind of a family setup.
Yeah.
There's deer in there every year he doesn't recognize.
Yeah.
He's flown it, he surveyed it, he does all the management on it, and there's deer every year that
It's wild. I mean, if they don't want to be seen, it doesn't matter what it is, where it's at. If they have adapted to that area and they don't want to be seen, they're not gonna.
No doubt. Well, we appreciate you being with us, man. What a great episode. Thanks for coming up here to be with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just in review, what you do and what you've done for Exile has been huge.
Thank you. Yeah, y'all too. It's been it's fruitful on both ends. Like I couldn't, a lot of my successes stem from owning a rifle that you guys built. So it's mutual for sure.
So Noah, once again, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely.
And thanks for everybody tuning in on another Exile episode.